Let's talk about a midlife crisis, because apparently I'm 40, but I still don't feel like an adult, and I'm just now noticing the person I became by accident. So here is something about me you probably don't know. I've been wondering if I'm going to have like an actual midlife crisis. Not like, am I going through one, but more like, is a midlife crisis even a real thing? Because in the media we all grew up with, it was a pretty standard trope. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that just about everything that the generation that raised me said was a lie. And now I'm wondering if the midlife crisis is an inevitable truth, or is it just another weird piece of boomer propaganda? Interestingly, I totally did have a quarter life crisis in my early 20s, which also back then every adult said that's not a real thing, despite the lived experience of basically so many different people I've interacted with. But anyway, I had that crisis because I was trying to figure out who I was going to become, who I would grow into. I knew I didn't want to turn into what we called a yuppie, but I knew I wanted to make money and have a comfortable life. But 20 years ago, being a lame ass dad in a meaningless job was basically the only approved path to stability. And I was very unhappy with that, and also very unhappy trying to forge my own path. It was kind of a rough time, but you'll be happy to know I did not become a yuppie. I did make my own way, but I also didn't exactly strike it rich either. You know, like most entrepreneurs, I've had some big wins, but some losses, a lot of missed opportunities, and periods of stagnation, and nothing really to brag about other than the fact that I do live an independent life. But I also find it weird because most of my peers ended up with pretty midlives also. You know, one of my friends totally embraced the hipster persona, which for those of you who weren't born in the 1900s, that's basically what yuppies morphed into once they started liking craft beer. And you know, he seems happy enough, even though he's in a toxic relationship but doesn't realize it. But now that I've entered this new decade, I'm not quite sure how to feel. Like I said earlier, I'm just noticing the person I became by accident while I was busy trying not to become the person that they told me to be. And I'm wondering if I'm gonna, have a crash out and go into this proverbial midlife crisis. Because I mean, my mental health isn't doing great right now, but I don't think that has anything to do with age. But maybe the crisis isn't that we get old. Maybe it's that we finally woke up and realized we're living in a world built on lies by people who were just as lost as we are.